Welcome to the Modeling Lifestyle, where we celebrate how modelers have embraced their modeling and friendships as a lifestyle. We discuss how modeling can become a life passion and lead to lifelong friendships. The goal of the modeling lifestyle is to preserve the modeling and interests of leading modelers in the modeling industry. The modeling lifestyle is sponsored by NGNC, a market leader in quarter-inch scale modeling with products from over 50 vendors and the largest collection of out-of-stock model paints with over 9,000 bottles available. And now to Jim Kello, MMR and host of the Modeling Lifestyle.
I love the sound of a whistle.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it so much and hope you'll come back again for our future shows. This show is called Modeling Lifestyle. What we try to do is introduce you to not just some great modelers, but people who are making and have made significant contributions to our model railroading hobby. And in fact, modeling and model railroading has become a major part of their lifestyle. Before I get started and introduce our guest tonight, I want to solicit your help. Because as with any show that's run by volunteers, we can always use help, and we desperately need some more people to help us. We also have some bills to pay. It's all run by volunteers. We don't get any money or anything from the show, but we have to pay certain bills to keep the show going. And this year we're starting for the first time to try to raise enough money to offer a $1,000 scholarship to a young model railroader who's going to continue their career in a college or university or a technical school in one of the STEAM programs. We think that that's really important for model railroaders to get some help, and who better to help them than the model railroading community. So if you can see your way clear to help us fund this, we really would appreciate it. We have a Pantheon account called New Tracks Modeling. And anything that you might be able to contribute, we would be most grateful for in order to try to help somebody get through a college education. So now with that said, I want to introduce you to Al Judy. Al is one fantastic modeler. Some of you I know have met him and would agree with that. But Al is not just a modeler. Al is really an influencer in our hobby. He's done just about everything that you can think of in the hobby. He's sold brass. He's done custom model building. He operates the Harrisburg show. He's done it all. And so it's my honor tonight to introduce you to Al Judy. Al, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Hi, Jim. Thanks for having me.
But let's start by finding out a little bit about who Al Judy is. Al, can you give us a little bit of background?
Well, I've been a modeler for over 60 years. Started with a 3-rail mark set when I was about 2 years old. By the time I was 6, I realized that scale was the way to go for me, and the 3-rail was out. So my father took me to visit a lady he worked with's brother, and he had a huge layout in the second floor of a 3-car garage, pulling. He modeled Baltimore and Ohio, pulling 100-car coal trains and stuff. And as soon as I walked in the room, I knew I was a model railroader. I just fell in love with it instantly. So that was my modeling influence in the beginning. As far as the trains, I grew up in a town with 2 Class 1 railroads running right through town. So my school sat between the 2 tracks. So depending on what grade you were in, you could either watch the B&O on one side of the building or the Western Maryland on the other side. So I got to watch trains all day. My uncle's father was a station master in town. I had several other relatives that worked on the railroad. And my aunt, who kept me before and after school while my parents worked, lived right alongside the tracks. So she started me out with her camera, a little Browning 126 camera, and we would go out at about 7, 8 years old and take train pictures. So I was a rail fan very young, had a lot of train influence. And of course, the modeling was just like I said, after I saw that layout, I was in. So modeled all the way up through. Went college. I belonged to the Model Railroad Club at Penn State. And shortly after getting out of college, I opened a hobby shop that I had for 10 years. It was strictly a train shop. We only sold model railroading supplies. My specialty was short line and logging brass in multiple scales. I had that for about 10 years and then moved on, just did personal modeling for a while. Work, life gets in the way of other things. And as I get older, I decided to get into doing some of the internet things. I just wasn't happy with the way things were on the internet. They were so off topic, some of the early groups, that I thought I'd start some groups online and go from there. My modeling originally started out as HO scale and got into HON3 narrow gauge, and then eventually worked to, as I got older and the narrow gauge in HO was a little small for me, I found ON30 and just fell in love with that. So that's where I am today.
Well, like a lot of us, you've experimented with different kind of scales. But what particular part of model railroading really interests you? What draws you to model railroading?
I like most of the aspects of it. My favorite thing is the scenery. I love doing scenery and designing layouts so that the scenery and everything looks natural, that it's workable. A lot of designs look great on paper, but in reality, it's tough to make them actually operate. But I like all aspects of it. The only thing I'm not a fan of is I'm not big on electronics. I'm an old school guy. I like the wires and the toggle switches. So
I understand. I totally understand. Well, listen, you're such a well-known modeler. Many of us, though, probably have never seen close up any of your models. So let's take a minute and look at a few of them and have you tell us about them.
All right.
What is this showing us now, Al?
Okay, well, these two photos both show two small engine houses, sort of a signature build of mine. I did one for a magazine article years ago, and everybody liked it so well. I've built many of them over the years, but they're just a small individual stick-built boards, so you have the light shining through them and kind of open air look to them. And that's why I chose these two photographs to share, because they both show that structure.
Okay. How about this one?
This is a module that I built for the National Narrow Gauge Convention in Hickory. It was called the Deadline. I took a bunch of old derelict locomotives I had that were beyond repair, that they just weren't worth fixing, and weathered them up and made a deadline behind a shop that's sort of a cut-up shop where they're robbing parts off of them. I have one of them. One of the locomotives has a board on the window, and painted on the board it says, "Sold, do not part out." But lots of things covered in tarps and pieces robbed off of them, and just made a very interesting scene to take to the convention.
Okay, next.
All right, this one here, this is on my personal layout. This locomotive is a kit bashed. It's a Bachmann Shay. And I added a bunker from a Climax, which is taller, gives a little bit beefier look. And it's shoving some log cars into the mill there past the mechanic shed for the lumber company tractors in the background. In the foreground is the old log pond for the mill that's no longer in use. So it's all grown over and the breastworks have collapsed, and it makes for a real conversation piece.
Would you say your personal layout, Al, is a logging operation? Is that what the theme of it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's all ON30. It's a 70-foot long bookshelf layout. And it's several lines coming into to a large sawmill. Yeah.
Gotcha.
This one's unique. This was one of my first times using the new fiber optic lighting. And if you notice in the picture, the lighting, it doesn't spread out and light up the entire scene. It's very directional. So you get that puddle of light under the lights, which is very characteristic of the old reflector type incandescent street lights and things like that. So it's made by Dwarven Enterprises, and I really like it. It's a simple install, no wiring. Just drill a hole and stick them in. They work great.
Fantastic.
Okay, the Tri-State Manufacturing is a 5-story scratch-built building. It's about 4 feet long. I built this for last year's Harrisburg narrow gauge show as a display. It has 38 individual fiber optic lights. So the windows are boxed so that only certain windows light up when you put the lights on.
Mm-hmm.
It's multiple levels. As you can see, even the retaining wall is staggered going up to it in the back. Just gives it a lot of interest. The photo on the right is a view across a layout I built up in New York called the Crooked Lake Railroad. And this one, just a very natural looking yard with a lot of activity, beautiful scenery in the background. So laid out very nice on that design.
Al, where do you get the ideas for these? I mean, this is beautiful modeling. Where do you get the idea from?
This is all, I pretty much do all this in my head.
Okay.
I'm sort of a natural born artist. So I envision, I look at the area and envision the scene and just build from there.
Gotcha. Okay, was that the last one, Dylan? Okay. Well, now let's take a break from the pictures. We come back to some more because I do want to show some more of your modeling. But let's bring in some of your friends to make this a little bit more in-depth information about you, Al, and have your friends join us. First, I'd like to introduce Tom Farrell. Tom, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you met Al?
Thank you again for inviting me, both Jim and Al. Well, first I met Al on his Facebook page, the ON30 Facebook page that he runs. And then Al runs these shows in Harrisburg, and I met him in person a couple years ago at one of the shows. I met his wife, and but I've been an admirer of his ever since I joined his Facebook page. And I've seen the number of participants grow immensely on that page. And if I could talk a little about Al, when I think of Al, I kid him, but I'm serious. I think of him as the John Allen of the ON30 world. I mean, he is, I think of his Facebook page, of course, but mostly I think of it, the number one thing when I think of Al is him giving back to the hobby. The fact that he's a constant promoter with his Facebook page and with these shows is really expanding the hobby. So if I had to rank how I look at Al, that would probably be number one, is how he's always giving back to the hobby, and he's making a name for ON30, which is great. And secondly, of course, is his modeling is world class. I always think of there's top modelers in the country. We all have our favorites. He's certainly one of my favorites. He's just exquisite modeling skills. And then something that I've also complimented him on publicly is his composition when he takes photographs. He's not just taking snapshots. These are well composed photos. He pays attention to the lighting, to the overall composition. If those photos that we just saw, for example, the lighting that was shining down on the locomotive, that was no accident. I'm sure that was a setup, and it took some time, and it's a dimension of the hobby that the two of us both enjoy, and he's a master at it. So he's really, I don't want to blow too much smoke at him, but he's really somebody to be admired. Not only for his modeling, but the promotion of the hobby, which is, we'd all like to see the hobby be sustainable and grow. And I can't think of anybody within ON30 that does any more than Al. And we share a lot of things, I think most common is the composition of photographs. Anyway, so, and I really enjoy his shows. I like meeting him in person, meeting his wife. And the last show, he invited me to his home, and I got to see his layout in person, and it was just great. I thoroughly enjoyed that, Al. I got to get that invite next year.
Well, thank you for all the kind words.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
You're just trying to make sure you're invited back, Tom.
yeah, right. Bought us pizza and calzones. So anyway, and some of the unique modeling that he does, the deadline, for example. I think what's interesting is when a really good modeler does something unique or something that isn't commonly seen. Abandoned scenes, like an abandoned log, what he went over, the log floating. I forget what you call it. I don't model that. The log mill area where the abandoned, basically, and the deadline. I was so impressed with that when I first saw it, because it's such a great idea, because I have so many dead locomotives myself. What do you do with them? And in that engine house, he has a shot that we talked about in my show, internal shot that fools everybody, that it looks lifelike. It really does. And like Al said in my show, the only way you can tell the difference between an actual engine house and his model is the figure. And I think if he put the right figure in there, he'd fake us all out. So anyway, he's a good guy, and I'm just glad I met him through basically through his Facebook page, and look forward to those shows every year.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, Dylan, do we have some photos that we want to show for Tom? Yeah, there you go.
So the picture up on the left is one of Al's shows, of course. And I can't tell you how neat it is to meet all these guys in person. It's one thing to talk back and forth on Facebook or even on the phone occasionally. I've called Al for questions, but just to have the personal interaction is, I think we got to do more to get people to see just how much fun these shows are. And I don't think we have this problem, but we don't want them to be cliquish, where I always make it a point when I'm at these shows to go introduce myself to people. And if people are congregating in groups of 3 or 4, maybe it's the ex-salesman in me, I just go on over there and introduce myself. We got, not everybody's extroverted. So I think at the shows, we got to do more to bring people in and, into our little circle of friends, and that'll expand the hobby. Then these two photos, again, I just talked about this one on the right there, the lighting. That's really not an accident. That's just beautiful modeling. That's just very well done. And I just lost the, am I there?
Yeah.
Oh, something moved on my thing here. Huh, okay. So, and then what happened to my screen here? So I got to do this blind. So the other photograph was just a model that I really appreciated his. And you'll have to tell me what's on there till I don't know why I lost my screen here.
Now we've got three other pictures. The one on the left side has 3 tracks running into it. Some locomotives.
Yeah,
on.
that's actually Tom's layout.
Okay.
Yeah, hold on a moment. I'm going to switch to my phone. I apologize. I don't know why my screen went crazy. Okay, so or am I? Do you have my photos up? Yes.
Yeah, but your voice is bad.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
I'm sorry. I don't know why
I'm sorry.
Yeah, hey, Tom.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, use your phone to see what's going on, but use the computer to talk.
Yeah. Is that better?
Yes.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, that photo on the left is my layout.
My layout, and
I just wanted to demonstrate how the
demonstrate how
photograph
the background
and
photograph
reminiscent
and
of Al Judy's
it's
work.
reminiscent of Al
Tom,
Judy's work is why I chose that
Sometimes say
photo.
we do similar work.
Sometimes
I think
say
that's
we do similar work. I
similar
think
to
that's
some of his
similar
stuff.
to some of his stuff. Western Pennsylvania.
Tom, you're going to have to
Yeah,
turn
I'm
your
sorry.
phone off or your computer off because we can't understand you. You're coming through.
Echo machine. Yeah.
How about that? Hold on. Sorry. Screw up.
Now you're good. We can hear you well now.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can hear you great now.
All right. Sorry. I don't know what happened. So anyway, sorry to have the distraction here. It just I didn't touch anything. Anyway, that photograph of my layout, I thought basically looked very similar to some of Al's work. And it's Western Pennsylvania modeling there for me. And we're both from Pennsylvania. So we have those themes running through our layout. And that photograph in the right-hand corner, I call it McCoy Camp. That was a question that I posed to Al. I always wanted to model a abandoned rail car, one in complete disarray. And I didn't know the size of boards, for example. I called him up and asked him, what size are these boards? And he let me know, and I followed with my own. And still hear me? Everything clear? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then that's some of Al's locomotives in the bottom right-hand corner. And we talked about modeling. He's done some unique, he's really a master at weathering and painting these models. And I thought that was a unique color that he used. I think he calls these, what do you call those? Cinnamon something, Al? Yeah.
Yeah, you caught me off guard here. I don't remember what we called them when we did them.
He called them cinnamon something or others.
Yeah.
So anyway, and he's yellow one, for example, just something out of the ordinary, because everybody can do a black locomotive with weathering, but he chooses occasionally to do these unique colors and unique schemes, and they're just really interesting to me. And I think it just shows the breadth of his modeling skills,
When I did that yellow shade, people lost their minds.
Yeah.
I mean, but see how you remember that? And I remember it because it just was so unique. Same with these cinnamon locomotives, if you will. And it just, the uniqueness is part of the hobby, to do things that not everybody's doing and do them well. And that's Al Judy.
I remember I called them ginger snaps.
That's what it was.
Yep, ginger snaps. Yep.
Wrong spice.
Yep.
So anyway, it's really Al's show. I just didn't want to. Sorry for the technical problem. I don't know what happened there, but
Oh, no problem.
Not a problem. No.
Listen, it's a live show. We're all volunteers. We do the best we can, and we go from there. But Tom, thank you so much. Your comments are high praise from a modeler of your category. I can't thank you enough again for joining us tonight and being here to talk with Al.
Again, thank you for the invite.
Now let's turn to another friend of Al's, Sam Pence. Sam, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. And I will ask you the same question. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you know Al?
Am I coming through okay?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I started like many did with an American Flyer layout around the Christmas tree, and I got a little older, and I got my father to give me a piece of plywood and some sawhorses, and played with that for a while, and then all of a sudden I grew up, and life got in my way between an education and raising a family and getting started in my career. It was just one of those things that just didn't allow for a lot of time, but I did find some time eventually and ran into some 0-30 people locally in upstate New York, and they directed me to a gentleman by the name of John Weigel, which most of you probably know. And I saw him in Syracuse at a train show, and I saw him in Springfield in Massachusetts at a train show. And he really got me. In fact, I think I bought my first locomotive from him. And I got interested, and I said, I just don't know where to go with this. He said, well, there's this show down in Lycoming in Montoursville that this guy runs, and his name is Al Judy, and he could probably help you out. So sure enough, I found where it was, and I went to see Al and met him there, not for the second time. The first time was in Kimberton when some trash on Weigel, and this guy helped me carry it out to my car. Well, little did I know that was Al. We had met before we actually talked to each other and just said hi. But anyway, we were in Lycoming, and I brought these grandiose plans of what I wanted to do, and he set me straight. One of Al's great talents is he could look at a space and make it look the way you want it to look, and you don't even know that he's changed your whole concept of what to do, because he has the experience and the knowledge and the foresight to see that the problems that I was going to run into were avoided by his intervention. And from there, it just grew, and he built my layout, which I think is sitting right here behind me, and in record time. And he became really a part of my household. And I've become part of his, and I've come to help him with shows. And he's taught me every time we talk or I'm with him, I learn something, which makes him a great educator and a great representative to 0-30. So, and I want to thank Jim for organizing this. I think it's a great service to the hobby. And for Al, it's more than a hobby, it's a way of life. And he is so gracious and so giving with everybody, and how he answers questions, how he buys and sells equipment. There's no gouging, there's no, I got to get this, and it's the only way this is. And he knows the value, and he wants to see people succeed. So I'm very happy to have been asked to be part here. I sing his praises all the time, and he doesn't give me any money to say those things, so they're unsolicited and with his joy. But he's a wonderful person and a great representative of this. I'm not going to say hobby. For him, it's a profession, and the combination of his artistic skills, his photographic abilities, and his knowledge. I don't think there's a book out there that has as much knowledge as he's exposed to me and to many others. So thank you, Al, and
Thank you.
I think that, this is very nice that you were able to give him this platform and show some respect to the king of ON30.
Well, I thank you so much, Sam, but let's take a look at some of your photos. There we go.
There we go. There's Al. That was in Mid-Hudson meeting. And I don't know who that guy on the left is. But there's another great thing that should be publicized. It's not, it's a show, but it's more than that. It's a meeting of friends to exchange ideas and to just a camaraderie that I've seen at all of Al's events. But that Mid-Hudson meeting is something worth going to. Just to meet the people that we all talk to on the phone and online and see their work. And Alan Littlefield in his area has that ON30 show. So it's something to think about in the future. The 2 shows a year, and I highly recommend them. This was Al. He does actually do work, as you can see on the right-hand side. And this was the addition, but if you see the roundhouse there, he built that, just built it away. And most all the structures there, Al did for me. And he taught me how to decal and got me set up with somebody, and I got some great decals, and I'm enjoying that. And now I'm running out of space, but what I'm going to end up doing more now is weathering and trying to maybe rudimentary structures. And there's most of these are some of Al's finer works, in my opinion. And the ones that we saw here previously from Tom had some nice structures of Al's. They didn't look too good, probably to the amateur, but I always said that Al can make a wonderful building look pretty crappy.
Sam, those structures are on your layout, right?
Yes.
This is all on my layout in my house, yes.
Okay.
And
If I may, that last picture, Dylan, can we go back there a second? The top picture looking down through the yard, that's an 8-foot addition that we put onto a layout that was built 5 years ago. And it's seamless how it blends together. You can't tell where the old one stopped and the new one started.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yep.
That's hard. That's really hard.
The next slide, Jim, if Dylan could flick to that one. That building on the right is absolutely unique. I don't think there's another building like it. And Al can explain it more. There's nothing square in it. Take a look at the roof line.
Yeah.
And
The building is it sits in the in between a switch, and so the building is not square. It's a trapezoid, I guess. But when I did that, the roof had to be made with compound angles so that it would fit the building. So you notice the roof line is totally unique.
Mm-hmm.
If I could have just got that big bee's nest though out of the corner. But anyhow, it's definitely a one of a kind structure, Sam.
True, very much so. And I always point that out when somebody comes to look at the layout. If anybody is interested, if you got a copy of run, I believe it's 91 and 92 of O-Gauge Railroading, the 2 articles in there, both written by Al and photographed by Al, show the construction and the operation on the Crooked Lake Railroad. So if anybody's ever interested, I'd be more than happy to show it off. I do it quite often. And it's just to me, it's a work of art. And I just am so happy to have been fortunate enough to meet Al and the other ON30 people. It's just so different from what I was exposed to previously with what I call nutcrackers and rivet counters.
Yeah.
It's free. It's fun. There's no wrong way to do it. And for a beginner, that's a comforting thought. So with that, I don't want to take up any more time, Jim, but again, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for what you've shown of Al's work here.
Well, don't go away, because we got a lot more to talk about
Oh, I
tonight.
know.
Want you to participate along the way. Well, Sam, thank you so much. Well, let's turn to one more friend of Al's who's with us tonight, Ben Poole. Ben, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We really do appreciate it. And let me ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you know Al.
Oh, you bet. And by the way, you notice that Sam and I are dressed the same this evening, right? This is the staff shirt when you go to visit Al's Harrisburg show and you're willing to help. He gives you a staff shirt and he does let you get in for free, but you got to work. So we're pretty jazzed. I got to do that a few times and I appreciate that. So let's see, how did I get into model railroading? Like just about everybody we know, age 6, I got an N scale, a little layout loop, right? Just a little thing for Christmas from my mom and dad. And I loved that. I built I didn't build, but my dad and I built a really nice 4x8, plywood layout. We lived in Pasadena, California at the time, and I was fascinated with engineering. So we built a balsa wood Golden Gate Bridge, and my train ran right across that thing. Right. So anyway, I was in N scale for a long, long time. Then, what do you know? You become a teenager. Girls become more important than model trains. You go to college, life becomes what it becomes. You have a family, and all of a sudden I've got 2 daughters, and they don't care about N scale. But the magic of G scale, right? Large scale going around the Christmas tree. We did that for quite a while, which was a blast. So I invested a lot of money in that for a while. But you know what? Daughter's not too fascinated with trains like us boys were. But we did when they were young, we did a trip out to Durango, Colorado. Everybody knows, what do you get there? You go to Durango and Silverton. All of a sudden I got the bug for narrow gauge railroading. It's N scale gone. I still had, the Empire tucked away in boxes. G scale out of my mind. It's going to be HON3 because that, Blackstone was in Durango, and I went and invested all my hard-earned dollars and my hobby money in HON3. Got a big layout, 16 feet by 2 feet. Loved that. But Sam, when you mentioned rivet counters, I'm like, they have some rivet counters in that world. Let me tell you. And I was on all the different forums. If I could self-admit, are we allowed to do that? I am not a very good modeler. All right, I'll put it right out there. But I know good models when I see them, and so I probably have more money than skill, and so I acquire things, and I had all this HON3, and then in 2020, that man who's coughing right there, I started following ON30 on the Facebook pages because frankly I got really frustrated with the rivet counting. I just I wanted some help. I wanted to build models. I was in HON3 and I really enjoyed it. And the amount of detail you could get in those little things was phenomenal, but people were kind of angry. I don't, right. And all of a sudden it was Al's Facebook page. I don't know. I stumbled across that and nobody there was counting rivets. Everybody's having fun and they're cheering on each other. And Al personally, he got like 6,000, 7,000 people on the one page, ON30 railroading, and they're all having fun and helping each other. And so I thought, you know what, let me check it out. So I live in Atlanta, Georgia. And so I tried to find some local people, and the closest one I could find who really knew what he was Larry Knapp up in North Carolina. And so he and I picked it up, and I would say that between Al and Larry Knapp, that's how I've been a convertee to ON30. And it's been maybe about 2 years now. So what I ended up doing was, again, looking at the skill level that I have and the skill level that I'm seeing. I reached out to Al directly, through his Facebook page and said, you know what, I would really love to have a little 4 foot by 4 foot micro layout. Can you help me? And we got on the phone, we talked extensively, right? And what I was really looking for was, I'll call it a head start, right? And Al said, look, I'll build you one of these things. What do you want it to be? And I said, you know what, from what I can tell, you're an artist. What do you want to do? You have artistic license, just have at it. And he sent me some sketches and some drawings. We got on the phone, we talked about it, and I'm like, that's perfect. Let's do that. And so in June of 2021, right? That's not that long ago, right? Still in the middle of COVID. I flew from Atlanta up to Harrisburg. I rented a SUV, drove over to Al's house. We had a great time, went out to dinner. We had some drinks. He showed me everything he has, all the stuff you see in the background there. Got to see his layout in action. We had a really great time all night long, but I got to take this baby home, right? This 4x4. And I tell you what, it slid into the back of that SUV perfectly, right? And then the next day I drove home to Atlanta, long drive, but I am the proud owner of an Al Judy 4x4 micro layout, right? And so I think I look at Al as he's like the ambassador of ON30, because he doesn't just have the one Facebook page. He's got quite a few, and I'm guessing there's more than 10,000 people that are on there regularly. And like Tom said, interacting with Al on the Facebook page, we do it all the time. We talk almost every day. When I say talk, through Facebook Messenger or on texting or whatever. Sam, right? You mentioned the Mid-Hudson meet, right, up in upstate New York. Al and Larry, the two of them, introduced me to that group. And so I go to there, and you get together a bunch of guys, you're drinking beer and having fun, adult beverages. It's like going to a college football game. If you follow college football, everybody's having fun. And you get one-on-one interaction with really good modelers. Dan Walshin, right? Everybody knows Dan in the Mid-Hudson Meet Group. He sat me down and he showed me how to weather Bachman gondolas, at the last Mid-Hudson Meet. We did that on and off for 2 straight days. And I learned so much from him. And it's that environment of everybody accepts whatever, frankly, I suck at modeling compared to you guys. You're an MMR. Right, Jim? Al, you're an artist. Tom, everybody's really got some skills, and I'm hoping to get those skills. One day I may achieve them. Alan Littlefield, and meet people like him. Through Al's group, I met Ian Fanges. He's in Australia and he paints figures. I bought a bunch of figures from him. Some of the most amazing figures. They really make the scenes. When you photograph them, they just pop out.
Well, you'll get to meet him this year. He's coming to Harrisburg.
There you in person
from Australia,
from down under.
Yep.
It's going to be awesome. Other things, once I really decided to get out of HON3, and I've been selling off that empire, right, which is helping me fund this new empire. What I've really enjoyed is I now have some dead rail as well. And there's, Clem at the Mid-Hudson Meet and Steve Sherrill, he's dead rail. These are people that helped me get, so I have some dead rail running as well, which, by the way, I don't need to clean my track. Who cleans track? I got dead rail, doesn't matter. I could run the thing across the kitchen floor. It doesn't care, right? It's really neat to be able to do that. The Harrisburg shows, that Al does, if you think about it, having a scale specific gathering, right? Everybody in the room is doing the same thing. It's not like a regular, really big train meet. We have them here in Atlanta. They're up in Wisconsin and Chicago. Everybody has it, right? Baltimore, Timonium. But that's like everything under the sun. And you might even have Cabbage Patch dolls, right? Which you got to appease the other half of the crowd, but right. But Al's meets are ON30, right? He also has the O scale meet, but the ON30 ones are the ones I love because every single person in there is doing this, and they're all supportive. Everybody's having fun. You know, you meet the manufacturers, Ed Fillion from Deerfield River Laser, Rich Rands from Berkshire Valley, right? You get to meet them in person. These are the people you see the advertisements in the Narrow Gauge Gazette. It's absolutely fantastic. And by the way, I did buy the dead rail, or not the dead rail, the dead line module from Al.
Yeah, at the end of the convention in Hickory, North Carolina, we slid that into the back seat of
Yes, we did.
Ben's BMW.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. I couldn't help myself. And that I get to see that every day. It sits right over there in front of me when I'm, working from home. I get to take a look at that, and I move the people around, and I put other things in there and different crawlers, like Aaron Loyette, right? A friend of all of us. He does wonderful work with crawlers, tractors and crawlers, and I put them on there. It's a blast. So anyway, I feel like I'm overusing my time, but I guess the point is the ON30 community is very welcoming. I consider myself a beginner, even though I'm 60. Everybody supports what we're trying to do. And what I'm trying to do is I just want to grow, and hopefully my skills. So nobody disparages anybody. I'm learning how to weather things, like I mentioned about Dan Walsh. Dave Wingrove, another person who kit bashes locomotives, like Alan Littlefield. You meet wonderful people, wonderful modelers, and everybody is willing to sit down with you and just say, look, let's just go ahead and start doing stuff. Right? It's really, really fun. So,
and that is really unique to ON30. Because it's almost strictly freelance. Yep. So there are no rules.
Right.
Right. Whatever floats your boat is good with everybody.
And I would say, having been in NG and HON3, I completely agree. ON30, it's like, have at it. Whatever you want to do, let's cut the thing up and let's see what it looks like. Right.
That's right.
It's a blast. Yeah. So anyway, Jim, back to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Now, Dylan, can we show some of the photos for Ben?
Oh, it looks like everybody got the hat and the shades. So, Sam had the same, right? We that's at the Mid-Hudson meet up in Gardner, New York, and we stay at a hotel, or several of us, a bunch of us stay at one hotel, but there's several hotels. But we get together in the evenings and we drink adult beverages, and we just get goofy and stupid, and we have a lot of fun. And frankly, so that Dan Walston showed up wearing that hat and those shades, and so we swiped him off of him, and everybody got a photo. And you might be able to tell, or as we in Atlanta might say, could tell that we were having some adult beverages right there. Yeah, the photo on the right, that's when I was visiting Al's home, and you can see his very nice locomotive shelf in the background. That's when I went to pick up my 4x4 layout. We had a great time that evening, and I snapped a photo, and I wanted to keep that, memorialize our moment right that evening. All right. Oh, there's the sketch. Excellent. So that's Al sent that to me. Remember, I mentioned we talked on the phone. I pretty much, I just wanted a work of art that I could have in my home, in my home office. And, after talking to Al back and forth on the phone a little bit, he said, well, how about this? I wanted to have multiple layers. So you got 2 full loops, and it's a very small space. And he came up with this design, and I was like, fabulous, let's do that. So if you hire Al, if he's willing to take on the commission and you hire him to do the work, he can do it literally from soup to nuts, beginning to end, even come up with the thought that you didn't even know you had, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Helping you come up with what you want it to look like. And the photo on the right, so that's in my basement man cave. And I have it propped up because the wiring underneath, right? And I wanted to be able to make sure if I needed to get under there, I could. So I have it on a little table stand sort of thing. And what I really enjoy about it is it's compact, but and I hope we have another, maybe even a video we could show you. It's just this little this little work of art in one space. It's like you go to a museum and this thing is there. If when you focus in on it and you get, there we go, there's a video. When you get up close, every single square inch is detailed, right? All right, Dylan, can you run? There we go. So now you're looking at a little bit of action. Look at the weathering on the roofs. And hopefully nobody disparages me for the speed. I'm running those things a little too fast. A little too fast for real life. There's that little engine house. Al had that, I think, a photo of that in one of his, right? Even the backdrop. Look at the backdrop, right? I mean, I will call it Pennsylvania woods. It's fabulous. Really, really nice. And that's exactly what I was looking for. Well done. Well done. Even the rocks and the trees. And Al, you had mentioned the overhead lighting, the loop lighting. If you look, okay, there you go. In that photo, let's see if you can see them. There's 5 or 6 of them, the little street lamps, that
fiber optic street lights. Yeah, they go the whole way back through.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all over this layout. You can't tell until you shut the lights out. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I've got nocturnal, vision going on here. It's really, really neat. So that's why I say the attention to detail is just spectacular. So there you go. We got any other?
And the magazine article for this I wrote was called 8 Days in June, because I built the layout from going to Home Depot for the framing lumber to the way you see it in 8 days.
Yep. And that's right. There was an article in Owen.
So these people that say they don't have time to build a layout, I don't know what they're talking about.
Low gauge railroading. There's the article in there.
It's not a race.
Right on. So
It's
anyway,
it's the race that never finishes.
exactly. So to me, it's a community, and it's fostered and supported by Al. He runs the Facebook pages. That's how I got where I am. The friendships I've made with frankly, everybody here, and dozens and dozens of other people. Every week I meet somebody new. They say, "Hey, Ben, I really enjoyed the photo that you posted. What did you do about blah, blah, blah?" And it's somebody I met on Al's Facebook page, and here's what we did, and this is the photo, and this is what I'm trying to do, and this is what the layout looks like, and this is the new skill I'm trying to achieve. It's such a supportive community, and so that's why, Al, you're the ambassador for the ON30 community in my mind, and I have had an absolute ball. And at age 60, I got another 40, right? So let's keep having fun.
It's funny when Ben first showed me that video. I told him, I said, "Ben, is that Lionel you're running? I've never seen it. It's about much faster than that." Except
Japanese bullet train.
Al, can you add a third rail to that? The middle rail?
How about it?
Why not?
A little smoke fluid.
Right. Oh man! And like the Addams Family, if we were to do that, we might as well make them crash and explode, right?
You need a bridge.
Oh my gosh! All right.
Al, let me ask you this.
Sure.
We've seen a little of your modeling, and you've heard some people talk about Al's modeling. But Al, you're also you've been an influencer of so many people with your magazine articles, with the social media sites that you run. And we've heard some of your friends here talk about these things. But can you talk about them a little bit? I mean, how did you get involved with the magazines and particularly the social media? That seems to be something that's really an influencer for you.
Well, okay, yeah. The magazine articles actually came from the Facebook pages, because when I started the Facebook page, the editors of some of the magazines saw what I was posting, and they came to me and said, "Hey, would you write an article for us?" I said, "Well, I've never really done it before. What do you have in mind?" So they'd say, "Well, how about something like this?" So I started writing, and now 10, 15 years later, I've written dozens. Matter of fact, when I have an idea, I write them up and just stick them here in a folder, because a lot of times the editors will call up and go, "I need to fill 3 pages. Do you have anything for me?" And I can pull something out that I already have wrote and the photographs done for them, that I can just send them. So that's how I ended up getting so many magazine articles. But the social media really is the link today for model railroaders. I mean, 90% of what's happening is happening online. The people you meet, new products, new ideas, new techniques, it's all being shared on the especially the Facebook pages. The ones I own and run have about 10,000 members, but I also admin other ones that are general model railroading pages. Between them, there's almost 50,000 members. So that's a lot of people sharing information freely. And I just think it's really is where model railroading is today. That's where you make all the connections to make the hobby fun is through the social media today.
So if I could interrupt on that. So to me, what that means, Al, is, once in a while we bemoan the fact that Bachmann might not be making a particular locomotive that we want to see, or they stopped one that we liked or something like that. But when you have that kind of sway, you literally could put out a poll or a survey and say, hey, how many people would be interested in a new, such and such junkyard dog or whatever, if Bachmann was to make it? If you get, I don't know, 3,000 people say, well, I want to get one of those, all of a sudden Bachmann might say, whoop, let's go ahead and make some of those, right?
Well, Bachmann told me one time they estimated there were 10,000 0-30 modelers in the world. We have 8,000 members in our group. So we're
Right.
probably a pretty good representation of the gauge.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
Well, listen, I've got a question from Sean Williams that he's posted here. He wants to know, Al, how did you become such a wizard? Because you can build twice as fast and get twice as detailed than most anybody that he's ever met.
Practice, practice, practice.
There you go.
I've been a modeler my whole life. I've made all the mistakes, so I know what not to do before it happens. I know all the tricks to make things fit together right. I rarely build kits. If somebody wants me to build a kit, I usually take the directions out, look at the building, and then scratch build it, because I can scratch build it faster and nicer than the laser cut kit. Because I like I said, I know where all the mistakes are, so you can make the joints better and everything else just by using techniques that I've developed over decades.
I firmly believe that the thing that separates the beginner from the master modeler is that the master has just made more mistakes.
That's right. I've made them all multiple times. But you know what? And this is something for beginners. There's really nothing you can't fix. If you over weather it, hey, repaint it and start over. But there's I've made some real boo-boos in my time. And if you sit back and think about it, okay, what can I do? It's like a tattoo artist that screws one up. Well, hey, let's put wings on that now. So that's what you do. Hey, let's put a bump out on the side of this and hide that blem that I screwed up and can't fix, and that's how you go about it. Just don't panic. There's always a way to fix it.
Well, and so okay, you've done the magazine articles. You're well known on the social media, but you're also been a custom model builder.
Yep.
Well, how'd you get involved in that?
Well, when I had the hobby shop, I would build. I actually had a table in the shop where I would sit in the afternoons and scratch build buildings, and the customers could sit around the table and watch. And eventually people started coming to me and saying, hey, this was my grandfather's grain mill. Can you build me a model of it? Or my uncle's gas station, whatever it might be. Excuse me. So that's how it got started. I started building, for personal interest projects. Next thing you know, museums and historical societies and things like that were coming with photographs and saying, hey, can you build, Can you build us a model of this building? And that's how I got started in the building, the custom stuff. You had to have, a lot of times they'd have a photograph of only one side of the building. So you had to use just your experience and common knowledge to make up the other three sides so that it made sense when you looked at the entire building.
Right. Right. What
The
do you
nice
think?
thing about Al's modeling, Jim, is he does everything, and there's a purpose why he does it that way he does it. In other words, you can look at it, you can look at all these pictures we've seen tonight, and within the next week, we all could probably drive by a scene similar to what we see on the screen right now. And it's life. It's life on a smaller scale. And that's what makes it so special.
Here's some of the.
You look at anything he does, and it's not just what he does with the engine or the building, it's what around it that accents it. And that's, you stop and think about, I know, I've seen a building like that, or in that much disarray, or with that much garbage or junk or whatever around it. That's
you always try to build the common, not the uncommon, because one-offs are strange to people. But if you build something that you see every day, it just looks like it belongs because everybody's used to seeing that,
I wonder if Dylan could bring up one of the photos I think we have of it was the deadline you referred to, but it was called Better Days or Seen Better Days, that module that you built, the one that I bought. And because of what Sam just said, if Dylan could pull one up, and then we'll try to pan in on it, because the level of junk detail that you put in there was striking. I mean, in a good way, right?
The picture he just had up of the locomotives.
There you go, right there.
Yep.
So is there a way, Dylan, can you enhance it a little bit? My point is looking at the barrel, the wheel, you got the pallets.
Look at that roof. There's a sign of age on that roof with the curled up tar paper.
Right.
Part is missing.
The open windows in the frames.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And frankly, the other windows on the other sides of that building, some of them have their, rocks are thrown through.
Right. They're broken out. Yep.
Broken out. And you see the shattered glass. I mean, it's just, the one building by itself is a work of art, but then you put it right here in this little module. Even the trees, some of the trees are fine. Some of the other trees are looking a little worn, as you'd expect them to be when there's oil and stuff that's going.
The one up at the other end, the dozer's running underneath it, and all the leaves are down on the ground from the stack, blowing them off the.
Right. Exactly. So that attention to detail is. You have to look at the thing and study it for a long, a half an hour to see all the stuff that's in there and look inside the buildings. It's really incredible.
When people come to my house, they look at my layout and they go, "Oh, this is new. Nope, it's always been there. Hey, well, this is new. Nope, always been there." There's just so many things that they overlook them, as they process. If you go, Dylan, the picture you had up of the two deadline engines.
Oh yeah, one was a Climax, I think, right?
Yep. You have that one? There we go. If you look at the Climax there at the top, things like the stone on top of the plate over on top of the stack to keep it from blowing off. I mean, they would use whatever they had, laying around that had weight. The tarps, I make those out of single ply facial tissues.
Yeah.
You paint them wet, put them on wet, and let them drape down over naturally. And when they dry, looks like it's been there for 10 years.
Yeah. Wow.
But the junk thrown inside the cab, the old empty acetylene tanks and stuff like that. Nobody ever puts anything back. They just throw it in under. So those are the kind of details, and if you think about it, you can make up a story for any of it, why it's where it is.
Yeah.
But
I hear a lot of people say, boy, I tell you, I really love building models. I think I'm going to become a custom builder. Al, what advice can you give to a modeler that thinks that he wants to become a custom builder? What are the tips that you might share with him?
Well, first of all, you've got to be fast if you're going to do it. If you're going to do it to be paid for it. If you're doing it just for a hobby, for a friend or something, you can take all the time you want. But if you're actually going to be a custom builder and build for museums and things like that, and just like with anything else, they don't come to you 3 years ahead of time. They come to you 3 weeks ahead of time. I need this for a grand opening. Can you build me 10 buildings?
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
you have to be able to do it. Like I said before, they'll show up and they'll have one old black and white photograph of one side of the building, but you have to build it 3-dimensional. So you have to make up the other side and, hey, there's stairs going up here. There'd be a window in the steps, a small window for a bathroom, whatever the case might be, but it has to make sense when you look at it. So you have to have good powers of observation in order to do that and make it make sense when you're custom building like that. Now, if you're historically custom building where it has to be exact, then they need to have the research for you. They can't come with one photograph and go, it has to be exact, because you just can't do that.
Yeah.
But it's all about the details, and you have to be rather quick.
And it's real commitment.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, I start at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning and work till 11 o'clock at night some days to get something done so that I can move on to the next project.
You know what, Al, your point about that, maybe mention, you and I had a conversation at the Mid-Hudson meet about rust weathering the wheels, right? For cars. So here I am, and I'm brushing every single wheel. I'm doing a little tutorial with Dan Walsh, and it's taken me a long time, but I want every one of those wheels to be really good. Al kind of comes over and says, there's another way to do that. And so go ahead and tell, how would you do that? Because now you are a custom model builder, right?
Well, I told him, I said, I could do a dozen trucks while you're painting one wheel. Just for an example of how I do it, I have a pair of dollar pliers. I pop the wheels out of the trucks, spray them with 99-cent black spray paint, sprinkle homemade rust pigments that I blend myself, just dump it right over top the wet paint, bang it on the edge of the jar so the excess falls off, lay it down to dry. As fast as I can pick them up and spray them, I can literally do a dozen axles in 2 minutes.
Al, what's the pigment? Is that chalk you're using?
It's actual paint pigment.
Paint pigment.
Yeah, it's the actual pigments that they use to make paints.
Where do you get that?
It's sold commercially. You can get it through some art supply places. But it normally only comes in the basic colors. So I blend. I have old rust, medium rust, and new rust. So, sort of a brown, a medium brown, and like an orange that I blend myself. And of course, when I got it to where I liked it, I always wrote the formulas down so I knew how much of this color to mix with how much of that color. The nice thing is it comes in quart jars, so you don't have to be real conservative with, you can dump it on. But anyhow, do that. Do the same with the trucks. Spray them, hit them with a little bit of rust, maybe some soot, some gray for road grime, let them dry, snap them back together, bang them on the tabletop a couple times, and then I take a wear wheel and a Dremel and just hit the faces of the actual treads of the wheels to polish them up. And I can do dozens of them in no time.
Yep.
Oh.
Nice.
So I told Ben, next time you're up, sorry about the cough. I'm fighting a cold. Next time you're up, stop in and out. We can sit here and drink a beer and weather a couple hundred wheel sets.
That's right.
It was actually painful for me to watch him hand painting that wheel.
I'm going to bring a suitcase with me. A suitcase.
Oh my God.
By the way, that's That's not the first time I've heard him say, "Oh my God."
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh.
So there, the layout Sam's sitting in front of is 20 by 25, I believe. 550 trees. I don't know, a couple truckloads of foam. I built that one in 29 days. So
I just casually made a comment to him while we started this. Geez, it'd be nice to have this ready for Christmas when my grandkids, I have 9 grandkids, my grandkids come to visit. Well, Al said, it'll happen. And sure enough, it did. I mean, there was no doubt in our minds.
no problem. So
Yep.
I must confess, I'm on a little slower.
well, really everybody does, but that's okay.
Yep.
If you're doing it for yourself, you'd be done, and then you wouldn't have anything for fun.
Yeah, right.
Right. That's right.
So, I mean, that's why every 2 years I tear my own layout down and build a new one.
You know, I think
You fresh.
Yeah.
Well, let's change the subject again. You used to be a brass dealer.
Yep.
You used to own a hobby shop.
Yep.
Well, the hobby shops are gone today, basically.
They are. The internet pretty much replaced the hobby shops.
And brass, when I was buying brass a long time ago, a lot of us were buying it, and it was an investment. We looked at it as an investment, not as a model necessarily that we were going to paint and all that.
A lot of them never even came out of the boxes.
Exactly.
They in closets. But
So, what about
it was just something about owning a piece of brass,
What about the brass today? Is that the same situation? Is the world different? What?
Yeah, the value has not changed a whole lot. There are a few pieces, of course, that have gone way up, and the same on the other end. There are pieces that have gone way down in value. So as far as an investment, it's like anything else. It's sort of a shot in the dark. But there's just something about owning a piece of brass. I mean, today there are plastic models that are just as detailed, much easier to put in all the electronics and everything like that, because of the brass, grounding and shorts were always a problem with any of the electronics.
Sure.
But there's still that brass. You've got that weight and that feel, and yeah, it's just something special about a piece of brass.
Now, I got another question for you here from another viewer. He wants to know if you painted the background on Sam's layout.
I did not. That's a skill that I have not developed. That was Sam had that painted by a professional artist that paints murals.
Yeah, he did that for me, and he is another one of those good friends that says a special talent like Al. And I said to him, I want my background to look like driving down Route 15 down the center of Pennsylvania through the mountains. And I was just down at Al's a few weeks ago, and by God, and I always look at him when I go down there to his house, and it's a beautiful sight. This guy is fabulous. There's I don't know if you can see it.
Sam, can you
there's
move your camera angle up so we can see? Can you do that and maybe see a little bit more of it? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And but he took there's actually a split. There's a town behind this wall. And
You're only seeing half the layout there.
Yeah, you're only seeing half of it, but there's the wall, and he built that wall with 2-inch foam standing on end, and he just carved all the trees in there, and as it gives it a dimension.
So what we did do though, I sat down with the drawings with the artist, and I said, this is how it's going to look, and here are the colors I'm going to use, so that he could match the colors in the background. So it matches perfectly with the layout. And like where I had a road, he has a road going off into the background, things like that. So it all looks like it belongs together.
It's a beautiful job. It really is.
Oh, it is. It's a gorgeous backdrop.
It really is. And I'm really proud of what Al was able to do for me. Al said one thing when I first talked to him. I'll be 75 in March, and I said, he said, I wanted it to be a certain way, and he was able to, do it for me the way I wanted it to be done. And I said, that's wonderful, because I know reality is I couldn't live long enough to be able to reproduce this myself. I don't have the background or the time or the talent to do it. But he shared his talent with me, and he shared his expertise. And I've done little things here and there. I'll make no bones about this. I always say, people say, can I come and see your layout? You can come and see our layout. Who's our? I said, it's my own, and it's Mr. Al Judy's.
Yeah.
And,
But Sam was very hands-on when we built it. He was right there in the plaster and the paint and everything else. He was right beside me the entire time.
we had a good time.
Yep.
That was, I work in a lot of high pressure situations every day, and being able to come home to this is just, I've sat there and just looked at it.
It is a spectacular layout.
I'll just sit there and I'll look and I'll say, what if I move that person over here or this one over there, which I've been doing, and then I'll see Aaron, and he'll pick up another truck for me, and I'll take that truck and I'll put it there. And, I got guys here running booze, and I got a truck with a wood load on it, and there's a cutout on it. You pull it out, and the guys are loading booze in there during Prohibition and running them, wherever. So
Absolutely. You're a lucky guy, Sam.
I am. I'm very fortunate. I have a wife that puts up with me, and an artist that puts up with me. So what more could you ask for in life?
Not a whole lot. Not a whole
That's
lot.
right.
And you know how moody artists are.
Yeah. You have to
Well,
catch
you
it the
also-
right time of the month, Al.
Yeah.
Well, Al, we've heard it talked about a little bit, but let's talk about your Harrisburg, Pennsylvania show. This is not your normal train show. From everything that I've heard, I haven't been fortunate enough to be at one, but it's kind of like a family gathering. And
It is. Let's go back to the beginning. I started it when I lived up in northern Pennsylvania, Lycoming County. It was called the Lycoming ON30 show. And what I did was I looked at all the shows I had gone to over 50 years, and I took everything I hated about them and said, I'm going to make sure we change this and make it right, and we try to cater to the vendors, because they're just as important as the guests coming in, so that they have what they need. And we have good food. Now that we're in Harrisburg, we have a picnic on Friday night that everybody can gather for a couple hours, eat, just sit and relax, talk modeling. We have maker spaces where we have people doing demonstrations the entire show. So it's not like a clinic where you walk in and, hey, it's at 1:00. And if you're busy, you miss it. Here, they're doing for 2 days. There's people sitting doing weathering and scratch building and mold making and plaster casting, things like that. And they're doing it all the time. So you can walk in anytime and sit down and actually talk with them, ask questions. A lot of them will let you be hands-on, like make it, take it. So we try to do anything we can to get the guests interacting with the modelers and with the vendors, like at the picnic. Last year I took a picture of a table and I realized there were Canadians, people from California, people from Florida, and people from Arizona in the same picture. So there were people from all over North America sitting at one table. And there we go. and sitting at one table at the picnic. And those people would have never had an opportunity to sit and talk to each other if it would have been for that event.
Well,
And Jim, you also should realize, and I'm not going to say too much about it because there's much more to come, but in 2024 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is the National Narrow Gauge Show. And Al is going to be in charge of the vendors and the convention show activities, which is going to make it very special. And he's going to bring some of his expertise and some of his ideas that are going to be revolutionary to some of these people that have been going to the show as it's been. So I'm not going to say more than that because, you know, Al will certainly disclose as much as he wants when he wants, but it's going to be a very, very different and a very special show for people to attend.
Yeah.
Al, it sounds like your Harrisburg show, going back to that a minute, it sounds like that this is more of a bunch of people getting together. And they're getting together because they're all hobbyists, and they're all ON30 hobbyists, and they're all interested in the hobby, but they're also interested in each other. And that's what it sounds like to me. That's what I've heard from time and time again. I think I've heard that from people who have actually attended it.
Right. Well, the new people that come, they said the atmosphere is different than any other show they've ever been to. You know, it's not like a train show. It literally is an event. It's a get together, sit and talk. We have chairs, even at the vendor tables, so people can sit and talk to the vendors, talk to the manufacturers. You know, it really is. It's as much about the camaraderie as it is about being a train show. So
Excuse me, go ahead.
I can testify to that. I mean, it is a unique show. I've gone to shows basically ever since I've been in model railroading, and I participated making a scratch built model live, and people sit down and they say things, complimentary things, and they learn things, and it's very interactive, and it's informal, I think is the best way to say it.
Is that what you hope to bring to the 2024 narrow gauge convention in Pittsburgh?
Yes, that's what we're hoping. It's gotten the conventions have become very rigid. They don't make a lot of changes to adapt to just changes in the market, changes in the modelers, things like that. So for 24, I'm running the entire vendor show. And we're going to take a lot of the things that we've had great success with in Harrisburg and implement them for the convention in Pittsburgh. So we're hoping to have that same kind of feel for the national convention.
See, what I remember when I used to go to train shows, and I used to go to probably a train show every week when we lived in Detroit. You walk by table after table. The vendors were there. They normally didn't talk to you. You didn't normally talk to them. Mm-hmm. You bought something if you knew you wanted to buy it, and you kept walking.
Exactly.
And,
in one door, 2 laps, and back out. You back home. Right. These people come, they're there for 2 full days. Most of them come in the day before so they can get with friends and have dinner and stuff the night before it starts.
Yeah.
We have people in RVs in the parking lot. But they're disappointed when it's over. They don't walk in the door, make a lap around the room and walk back out.
So that I referred to that, or I compared it to going to a college football game where you're tailgating, right? And I'm from the Northeast, and we didn't do a lot of that when I lived up there, but down here in the Southeast, that's a thing. It might be the NFL, the same idea. But you're there with your friends, you're barbecuing, having fun. You're just, catching up on what's ever going on. You're sharing stories, family is around and all that. And that's the same environment, same kind of vibe that you get at Al's shows.
And we have really good food.
And
Yeah.
Really good food.
That's important too.
And affordable. You go to a lot of these shows and they want $8 for a hot dog and $4 for a bottle of water.
Yeah.
Well, for $8 at my show, you get smoked brisket sandwich basket, and about 10 times better than that hot dog.
Yeah, right on.
Let me ask you this: with the pandemic, the inflationary costs that we're going through right now, the cost for gasoline, the aging of modelers, are the train shows going the same way of hobby shops?
I think the real big general shows are. You go to one of these shows where there's 900 tables, and you may or may not find anything of interest, especially if you're a specialty modeler like we are. ON30, I've gone to shows where there literally are 500, 600 tables, and there's not one piece of ON30.
Right.
So you never know. They're hit and miss. They're expensive because to put on a show that size, just the liability insurance alone is astronomical. So they have to charge you $15 to get in, for the show.
Yep.
But you might drive 3 hours with the prices of gas the way they are and things like that, and not find anything. And you're in a great big fair building with hundreds of people you don't know.
Mhm.
You don't know any of them. You're just walking. It's like grocery shopping.
Al, was it last year that your show was the same weekend as the Timonium show?
Yes.
I did your show, and when your show was over, I went down to Timonium.
Right.
And it had a completely different vibe. There was maybe 2 or 3 boxes of ON30, like 3 items, period.
Yep.
And then everybody's just pacing around. There's no interaction.
No, the vendors are sitting behind the tables, leaned back with their arms crossed. Half of them are sleeping,
I mean, it's just
And-
like
At the Harrisburg show, you just don't see that.
no, it's a completely different vibe. And the fact that people can just casually walk in, as you know, I participated in the makers.
Spaces, right?
It's really special. It's really the way the show should be run,
Right.
period.
So I really think in the future, Jim, that I think some of these great big monster shows are going to go to the wayside. I think the smaller, specialized, where if you're going to go to a show, it's going to be everything you're looking for. Everybody's going to have the interest you have. And, it's not going to be, a huge expense to travel to go to a show and then not find anything. So I think the specialty shows are going to be the future for the hobby.
So let me ask you this, and I've heard other people say exactly the same thing. Where is that going to put the small mom and pop manufacturer?
Well, actually, that's where the hobby is really going. So many of the bigger manufacturers are, dropping off, selling out. They're getting bought out, but not getting reopened. So I think the mom pop, the 3D printing, the laser printing, the little small companies, maybe 2-3 employees, family members, whatever, are going to be the future of the hobby for the most part. They all rely on the internet. Most of them don't do shows. They sell Facebook Marketplace, Etsy, eBay.
Mhm.
And this really, I think, is going to be the future. And you're going to have a few specialty shows. I mean, here in Pennsylvania, we're lucky. There's an O scale show that's strictly two rail O scale, 3 times a year. We have the Harrisburg narrow O, which is all O scale. narrow gauge. We
Right.
have the Harrisburg O, which is anything O scale, narrow or standard, Proto 48, whatever. The Mid Hudson show twice a year. And those are all within a few hours where people with our interests can go. And I think that's where the future is going to go, to just the smaller shows. And we do get a lot of the mom pop at the Harrisburg show. I mean, we have a laser guy, 2 or 3 that come up from down Georgia and South Carolina. We have, Mount Albert and Automation that come from Canada. Brandline from in the Midwest. So
right.
We get a lot of, the smaller manufacturers.
Well, listen, we've been talking about a lot of different things here. Let's go back and look at some more of your modeling and some more of the photos, Dylan, if we could see some more of those.
Okay, speaking of brass, this is a brass ON3 flanger that I converted to ON30. And as you can see, I'm not afraid to make brass look well used. So painted it up with a peeling paint and some rust coming through and some weathering. But, a good example of taking a piece of shiny brass and making it look abused.
Why not?
Why
Beautiful
not?
work. Beautiful work.
Even the lettering's faded. Okay, we talked about doing unique things. If you've looked through logging books and stuff, you always see old equipment that was damaged out on the line. They just shove it over the bank down into the woods. So I was building this log car and the center beam broke. So I thought, now what am I going to do with that? So I took it and I actually built it with a broken center beam, hanging clear down the ground, put weeds and that all over it, put a couple of cinder blocks under it, and then set it in that flat car like they pulled it up out of the weeds and they're bringing it back to the shop. So these are the kind of unique things that really make a layout special.
Absolutely. And that is beautiful modeling. It's just no question.
Thank you, Jim. Here's the infamous yellow shay.
That's what I'm talking about.
People went crazy when I painted this Mishkow Shay yellow. And
I thought it was great.
It actually looks pretty good.
It does.
Now that it's done, yellow is just very very easy to weather. And if you look at the white streaking down over it and stuff, it's subtle on the yellow, not like it is on oxide red and things like that.
Yep.
So it's just a nice color to work with, and I thought, why not? Let's do it. So there's the yellow shay.
Quick word on this photo. I mean, doesn't it feel like you can step into this scene? You look at the shay and then you look behind what's behind the locomotive, and you see the boiler in the background, the shadow of the fella in the workshop, and it's like you're immersed in the
stacks of lumber on the other side of the building.
Yeah, I mean, this is a layering technique for a visual treat to the eyes.
The bicycle thrown down on the ground, and
Yep.
the water tank is not exactly level.
You can tell those kids how many times, and they still throw those bikes down like that.
And then one thing we haven't talked about, Al, on your layout building, which still fascinates me, is your ballast is not glued down.
Actually nothing is glued down.
Yeah, and this is
the only thing I glue down is the very, very base coat of earth. All the textured grass and everything like that. Now the static grass is glued down, of course, but the ballast is all loose. It remains. It doesn't get that 2-year shiny, dusty look it does when you glue it down. And if you have to repair something like a switch, or if you decide to swap out a building, in 45 minutes, I can vacuum it up, put a new building in, put everything back down in Syndicate, and you never know it was touched. If you glued everything down, that's a Sawzall.
I am on my new layout. I am debating whether I have enough stones to do this.
Sam's entire Sam's 20 by 25 is all loose. None of
It's funny
glued down.
when I went to pick up the 4x4 layout or the micro layout, Al made a very specific point. He said, it's going to have to be in the back of that SUV completely flat. Do not tilt it or anything like that. I was like, what are you talking about? Well, it's because, like you just said, nothing's glued down in there.
Nope.
That stuff will fly right off. It's like,
No, because if you need to change something, you can just literally take a little mini vac, suck it up and change it and put it right back down.
I'm still wrestling with this. I'm trying to get used to the idea. Maybe I'll try it in a section.
Yeah, well, I've been doing it that way for 30 years and it works.
I know. It is unconventional.
It is. Yeah, it is. But I mean, Sam, yours has been built for 5 years. Have you had any problems with it whatsoever?
Not a problem at all.
No, nothing creeps. And the nice thing I like about it is it doesn't get that dusty plastic look over time because of it being loose. The dust and that goes down through it.
Yeah,
So-
exactly right.
I will try maybe.
Do a couple feet.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one of those lights, the Varvin
Yep.
light. Yeah.
This one's not showing up well on the screen here for me, but yeah, this is the fiber optic lighting, a kit bash locomotive from Aaron Loyat. I'm using all HO track, but you can't tell it. Being an HO modeler for years, I just couldn't bring myself to buy ON30 track when I had 400 feet and 85 switches. So I use it and just ballast it heavy, and you really can't tell unless you look close. But there's the guy eating a sandwich and throwing his wrapper in the garbage.
Let me ask you this. What's the difference between ON30 track and HO track, except that the eyes are further
Same
apart?
gauge, same code rail. The ON30 track, the ties are heavier and spaced further apart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of difference. If you ballast like I do, you really can't tell the difference at all.
You know what? I'll go get some. I'll show you.
So
Yeah. Okay, Dylan, next.
okay, this was a module called End of the Line. And I chose this photo just so you can see, look at the detail underneath the little bridge. And that bridge is only about 3 feet long. The fern and the rocks, and there's garbage down in there. And just the amount of detail. This entire module is about 20 inches wide and maybe 3 feet long. It has a turntable. It has an old shop building, a water tank with a brass water column. Just a real nice. If you look at the vegetation in the back there, there's the purple flowers and different types of trees. Just a lot of different textures in that in one small space.
Spark a restaurant loco. Let me real quick here. This is HO track, right? 83, code 83. This is, can you see the difference there? That's ON30.
Yeah.
That's
So that's really the primary.
and
difference.
that's code 83. In
Right.
code 100, the ON30 track is not quite as the difference isn't as drastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do we have next, Dylan?
That's a beautiful loco. Ooh, that one too.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, here's this is just a little porter, Bachman porter, added some chains, some weathering. It's a wooden cab from Banta. So you can take a little $90 engine and doctor it up and make it something special. I always try to do something to everything that I do for myself just to make it my own. Change the stack, change the headlight, whatever the case might be, but just something that makes it different than an out of the box piece that that 10,000 other 0 and 30 modelers have.
Somebody told me that you use more chain than anybody in the world.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, Al, you got to explain the whole chain.
Okay, so I'll tell you the chain story. Everybody always kidded me about the heavy chain. So I have a piece of it that's about 3 inches long. And when I take a photograph, I just drape it over the engine. I take the next photograph, I take it off and put it to the next engine. It's the same piece of chain on almost all the photographs. And that's what every time somebody says about the chain, about, oh my gosh, how much chain you use. Yeah, I only use 3 inches. I just use it repeatedly.
I love this little engine. No, I think that's just cute.
It has if you can't really see, if you look at the top of it, you can see it has a tar paper roof, which gives it texture on top of the roof.
Yeah.
So yeah, just little things to make it unique.
Yep.
Okay, next one.
Okay, this is one of my derelicts sitting by my engine shop.
Yeah.
Climax. The tissue paper tarp all tattered and torn from the wind. This one has a cinder block sitting on top of the piece of plywood on top of the stack.
Yeah.
There's corrugated tin over top of the bunker to keep the water and stuff out, and it's, being held down by a pallet. So I'm very happy with the scaling rust on the bottom of the cab.
Yeah, that looks great.
Yeah,
Really
I mean
good.
it's actual textured scaling rust. So,
And somebody had to heft up that 55-gallon drum to get it to stay up there, right?
yeah, it was empty. It's full of rainwater now, but it was empty when they put it up there.
Exactly.
Oh, I'll tell you, I love that wall behind it.
That's an actual one of a kind. Russian River made a 2-stall stone engine house, and Ash Rawls in Richmond, Virginia, said he needed one with a single stall, and the owner of the company actually made him a single stall engine house. So it's a one of a kind.
That's beautiful. I don't know how he made it, but that is just a gorgeous wall.
Yep.
Yeah, right on.
Okay, next.
Oh.
Okay. Well, listen, we've seen some of your photos now, and obviously the level of construction, the level of detail is just extraordinary. No question about it. You do a lot of research on these. I mean, you go to the library. How much research do you do to create these beautiful scenes?
Actually, almost nothing. If I'm doing a historical build, I'll do the background research on that. But the builds where I'm just doing my own thing, like I said, I try to keep them common so they look natural to people. Don't build anything too weird, like Sam's little trapezoid switch tower. But I couldn't make anything else fit in the space he had.
Yeah.
But I just try to keep them common so it looks like something somebody said that you see every day.
It comes out of your mind.
Yes. Yep.
Who influenced you, Al? Who were your mentors? Who really helped you the most?
Well, when we first started talking, I said about seeing the large layout in the 3-car garage. B&O layout. The guy was double heading articulated locomotives with 100 hoppers behind. And that's where I fell in love. And I was just a 6-7-year-old kid. And we would go down. My dad would take me down to see the layout occasionally. And this gentleman, his name was Huck. He'd always pull out a little cheap steam engine or something like that and send it home with me. A couple pieces of rolling stock. And he got me started, And that's where I come up with the giving back part to the hobby, because, he just really, I had no money, you're 6-7 years old. What do you have? A quarter, So I would say he was a big influence on me. And as far as my creativity, I had a good friend that passed away, but he was an artist and taught me all the dry brushing and the weathering and things like that. So I have to attribute that to Kurt. He was just a fantastic artist, and that's where I learned all my different techniques for that. I know everybody always picks the famous magazine builders and things. I've always been one to do my own thing. So I was more influenced by, the thought process for the hobby, and the, things like the weathering and that. But the building, I've always I've done my own thing. Experiment, try it. If it doesn't work, try it again,
Yeah, absolutely. Al, when you're building a model and you built it, and you sit back in a chair and you look at it, how do you know in your mind that it's finished, that's it, that's the model?
Well, I know because I envision it finished before I ever started. I told Sam this when we built his layout. I know what it's going to look like before I ever even start. I have the complete image in my head. Here, the pictures Dylan just put up here. This is some more detail. The rust on hatches on reefers, the insulation on the inside of the doors. Just little detail like that you can add. But I just know. I know what details I'm going to use, how many weeds, just how it's going to look. I can envision it before I even start.
I've asked that question from a lot of people. And about a month or so ago, I asked somebody that question, and he thought for a minute, and he looked me dead in the eye, and he said, I can sit back and say, yep, that's how it looked. And he said, I know exactly how it should look. And when it looks that way, it's finished. Yep.
That's right. I told Sam that when we were building his layout, I said, I already know I said, Sam, you'll be happy with this because I already know what it's going to look like when we're done.
He did. Those are truthful words.
Yep.
Al, is your modeling a piece of art, a piece of sculpture when you finish it in your mind?
I think so. Before we said about making each piece my own, each piece different. Even the little engine houses that I have built so many of, the little decrepit engine house. I make every one of them different in some way. I don't like to make any two pieces the same. And I think the originality is what makes them a piece of art.
Well, the people who pay for these things certainly consider them art.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, they are. They're one of a kind. There's no two pieces are alike, even if it's the same building. I'll put a different roof on it. I'll weather it differently. I do something different that no two people get the same piece.
Yeah, for sure.
Al, a new modeler just starting out to become a builder. What advice do you have for him?
So many with the internet, so many people look at modelers like myself that have been modeling for decades, and they think starting out, this is what they should be able to do. My advice is you have to start small, basic, learn the basics. We see it every day on the pages, people asking questions, and they're asking questions way beyond their skill level because they haven't done any of the work to get to that point. And that's why they don't know that. So, get a sheet of plywood, put a loop of track down, learn to lay track, learn to wire, build a couple of basic kits, paint them, figure out the basics before you're worried about weathering them. learn to build it and paint it. So my advice is, don't try to build something that's you're seeing on the internet. Start with the basics and work your way up through. And I know if you're a latecomer, which a lot of modelers are, they're coming into the hobby at 30, 40 years old. They've already missed 20 years of modeling that most modelers have, because most of us started as kids.
7 years old.
Right. I mean, I was painting, lettering, and weathering cars at 12. So, so if you're 40 years old and you're buying your first train set, that's what they always call them. You've got a long ways to go before you need to worry about how are you weathering and custom work and things like that.
It's a hobby that, it's skills building on skills, and
right.
you really should not trouble yourself that you can't be a master model builder right out of the box. And
there's so many different skills.
Yeah.
You've got carpentry and painting and wiring and design work and the scenery work, and I mean it's endless. And this is why the hobby doesn't get boring, because there's so many aspects to it that there's always something new you can do or try.
On my new layout, for example, I've never used in a serious way DCC, digital command control. My last layout, I had the ability to switch to it, and I had one locomotive that I ran with a small handheld NCE controller, but I've never really seriously used DCC. And like Al, I'm not turned on necessarily by electronics, but on this new layout, I'm going to go that way. I have the ability to do analog, but I'm going to learn DCC. It's something that I'm just going to do, and it's not necessarily something I necessarily like, but I've been watching the YouTube videos. There's a guy called the DCC guy, rehearsing, but I'm going to do it, and then I'll have that up my sleeve, that right. I'll be, because, the carpentry I have down, the model making I have down, you're always improving, but this is a hobby that you want to keep growing in different directions.
Right.
That's one way to go. And then
new stuff. Absolutely.
Right. You don't keep doing, I don't keep building the same thing over and over and over, yeah. and I try new things all the time, new washes, new blends, new pigments, whatever. And if it doesn't come out, that's fine. I just wipe it off and start over, but I'm always trying new stuff, because you never know what's going to work for you.
Yeah.
You said earlier, Al, and in my video a couple months ago, you can't be afraid to fail. Right. If you make a mistake, you rework the model. I don't, the nicest model I ever made, I started 6 years ago. I mispainted it, misweathered it, looked horrible. I set it aside for 6 years. I came back to it, fixed it, and it's the best model I ever made. So you can't be afraid of failure, and
back to these beginners, the YouTube videos, and that can be very helpful, but they kind of tell a beginner that, this is where you should be. And really they're not there yet, Oh, this is so easy. Anybody can do it. Yeah, no, you really can't.
You gotta get your hands on it and do it yourself.
Anybody with 20 years experience can do it. A guy that's never put a circle around the Christmas tree before, nope, can't do it.
I will, because I'm closer to the beginners than you guys are. I will advocate for the YouTube videos a little bit. For example, you need to fix your dishwasher. YouTube videos are extremely valuable. You need to replace the ice maker in your freezer. Very, very valuable. Similarly, like I mentioned earlier that Dan Walshin really helped me with weathering at the Mid-Hudson meet, but I also went to, and I saw a lot of different YouTube videos. There's a lot of different ways to weather things.
Oh, and you know what?
Metal or wood, right?
Well, you
But-
can learn things, but you got to do it yourself.
Right,
Like Jason Jensen trains, for example.
right.
He's a big advocate of acrylic paints. And I used to use the old school paints. I switched basically exclusively to these cheapy acrylics,
Yep.
But I didn't, I already knew how to paint. I just never used that media.
And it's good if you go out there and you try all these things, as a beginner, and you make a mess and they don't look that great, and then you go sit next to somebody like an Al and you say, hey, help me make this thing look a little bit more realistic, and all of a sudden now you're getting to another level. So the YouTube stuff can get you to a certain point, but then you want to have the eye of an artist to help you get to that real,
It's just
master.
a reference. The YouTube videos are just a reference. Even with that
Yes.
self-learning DCC, I'm not going to fully understand it till I start hooking it up and screwing
Yes.
around with it.
Right.
So you can't be afraid. Hopefully I won't burn my house down, but you can't be afraid. 20 amp power supply.
You got to
I could
put another
start my-
400 amp circuit in your house.
One other point for beginners, try every technique you can, because what works for one guy might not work for you. And so you watch the video guy who's supposed to be the expert on scenery and you can't do it. So you think you can't do scenery. There's 10 other ways to do scenery or weathering or anything else.
That's right.
You try them all, because until you've been hands-on, you're never going to know what's going to work for you. A good example, some of the best weathering I've ever seen are military modelers.
Yeah.
And they use MIG ammo. Okay.
Yep.
They swear by it. I can't do anything with that whatsoever. I have no luck with it at all. But yet those guys put out amazing results.
They do.
So it's just one of those things, it might not work for you. Just because somebody else says this is the way to go doesn't mean it's so.
Yeah, I get a magazine, even though I don't model. I get a military modeling magazine, because these guys, when they do armor, you want to talk about how to weather and chip paint. These guys live for that.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Fantastic.
I've picked up a lot of techniques, hairspray and all this stuff, just these they're masters at it,
Where they lose me is paint this on and wait 24 hours. That's too slow for me. If I can't hit it with a hair dryer and move on in 90 seconds, it's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
But it wasn't too long ago, though, that model railroaders would never think about going to a military modeler for anything, because if it wasn't model railroading, you just didn't bother with it. In fact, if you weren't an OM30 modeler, model railroading didn't exist. I mean, that was it. That was your world, and that's where you were.
Yep.
And now people are starting to recognize that the other hobbies do have some helpful ways of doing things.
We share so many. You share so many techniques. The gaming guys painting figures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Al, at this point in your life, what are your plans? What's next for Al Judy?
Well, if I had the space, I'd love to build the Taj Mahal of model railroads, but since I don't, my layout's finished. I really don't have any more room. I'm debating tearing it down and building another one, but at this point, I'm thinking about just building some modules and things like that, just to put some structures on and do up some scenes, maybe take them to shows, as a display. But I as far as commercially, I'm not planning on doing a lot of traveling to build layouts and stuff like that anymore. I take on some small projects here at the house. Ben, I didn't get your roller done this week. I'm fighting this cold. Maybe next week.
Okay.
But anyhow, just continue doing what I'm doing. What's that?
I think you should start that new layout.
Do you?
I think you ought to get the background.
Ben thinks so too. He wants half my buildings.
Get that background straightened out, new background.
That's right. New backdrop. Yep.
And then,
I think that's a good idea. You've probably talked me into it.
and I would, as much as I don't like them, I would consider 2-level layout for you because you need more space.
I do need more space. Yep.
So new backdrop and 2-level layout, and I've just planned the next 5 years for you.
I figured that was 6 weeks, but
Oh, that's right.
so
Well, listen, we're running about out of time, guys. So let me try to end it this way. To the three friends that are with us tonight, thanks again so very much. And I'll kind of leave it up to you guys. Tom, do you have any final words?
I just, what a pleasure it is to meet you guys in person and become friends and pick up skills here and there and tips and tidbits. And it's just such an enjoyable hobby from a social point of view. And that's why the shows are important. Even though we do everything on Facebook now, the personal interaction is golden. And Al, you really are a one-of-a-kind fella in the hobby. And, I'm not kidding when I say you're the John Allen of the ON30, which is, to me, high praise because he was
it is. Thank you. Yeah.
He was my driver when I was a kid, like lots of us. And you are the driver for this ON30, and more than you're talked about all the time at these shows. So thank you for all your personal effort and time, and your wife is a wonderful person, and just really enjoy your company, and thank you for all you do. And Jim, thanks for keeping me straight. Sorry I had technical difficulties. I don't know what the hell happened.
Don't worry about it.
I didn't touch anything. That was the weird thing.
Don't worry.
Gremlins.
That's right. We used
Maybe
to
I'll
put your hands off the keyboard, right?
Maybe Al, I can get you out here to Indiana sometime, you and the wife. It'd be great to put you up here in the house and play with trains,
Hey, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I got the same invite from Sam just the other day.
Yep.
So
that's the thing to the hobby. The social angle is the big one. And so thank all of you again for having me. I'm flattered.
Thank you, Tom, for so much for being with us tonight. We really appreciate it. Sam, how about you? What's your final words?
First of all, thank you, Jim, for getting this all together. I think it's a great asset to the hobby, and people should take good amount of time to meet you and be part of it. And I could talk a lot about Al. We've spent a lot of time together. I've learned a lot. I respect the man for what he can do. And if it wasn't for him, I'd probably either be in the loony bin by now or not around at all. He's really helped me out a lot. So
you'd still be deciding if you wanted. You'd still be deciding if you wanted to bolt that bench work down to your oak floor or not.
Oh my God.
That's right.
But thank you all for partaking, and I look forward to seeing everybody 2023. There's a lot of activity, and let's all support Al and his efforts for 2024. So
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Ben, how about you?
Yeah, Jim, thanks for putting this together. The modeling lifestyle, it's fabulous. I call it a subscription, but having this event on a regular basis is something that's really neat. So thanks for doing that. Al, you're an inspiration to so very many of us. And as I'm learning and growing and trying to gain my skills, having you and your friendship is extremely valuable. But really that's when I referred to you earlier as the ambassador for ON30, that I mean that because there's so many other people that are in this organization, in this group, in this group of friends, because of what you've been able to provide, and you foster that. So that's really, really important. And when we get together and we're all having fun and we're drinking buddies and telling stories and having a great time and saluting our veterans who are among us, that sort of thing. That's not about modeling. That's about just being human beings and having fun together. And that's something that I think we all need. But the modeling specifically, it's inspirational, and to learn tips like the one you described earlier, well, Ben, you can paint your rusty wheels this way, or you can do them this other way. Right. I didn't know that, but now I do know that. Right. And that's the things that the little tidbits here and there. And I would say, like, here I have a glass of rosé. Don't hold it against me. I know it's not summer. We shouldn't drink rosé unless it's summer. But what's the best wine to anybody, right? Well, do I like Merlot? Do I like Cabernet? Whatever. Everybody always asks the question. We know what the best wine is. It's the one that you like, right? Yeah. And so similarly, what's the best thing you can do here? It's what you like.
That's right.
Model the way you want to model. Make it up. Who cares?
That's right. Thank you.
And that's something that I learned from you specifically, and from the other folks that are in the 0 and 30 group, is let's just do whatever we want to do. It's okay to be different. Make it up as we go. If it's a mistake, you can paint over it later. You can weather it later, do whatever. And I so enjoy interacting with everyone on the group, and you've fostered that. So
that's why we're the black sheep of model railroad.
We are the black sheep. Exactly. Right. No rivets need to be counted here.
No. What are you doing? Are you counting rivets?
So that's really, for me, to be able to be part of this I keep calling it an organization. I shouldn't. The community of people like-minded but not like-minded. We don't care. Everybody's having fun together. Yep. And it's something that's, for me, it's a new resurgence of interest.
And we all get along.
And we get along.
Hundreds of people, and we all get along. Yeah.
We get along. So it's been fantastic, and really thank you. And Jim, again, thank you for hosting this, giving us a chance to have a chat with Al.
Yes, thank you, Jim. You're the unsung hero here, putting together all these guys.
Exactly.
Thank you very much for your efforts. I don't say enough about that. Yeah.
Guys, it's my honor to meet you and see you and get to know you a little bit. So thanks so much for being here this evening. Al, you're the guest. You get the final word.
Well, I just like the others, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to share some of my modeling and my experiences in the hobby. I want to thank Sam and Ben and Tom for making the time to join us here tonight. And finally, I'd just like to say, keep on modeling. Try new things, learn new techniques. Most of all, have fun. Go to some shows, maybe join a club. Model railroading can provide you with a lifetime of enjoyment. It's also a place where you can make lifelong friends that share the same passion for the hobby as you do.
Right on.
Al, thank you so very much. It's been a true honor to be with you this evening. It's funny when Al and I were talking early on during a practice session for this. Al said, "Well, how long do you think this will be? You think it'll be a little bit over an hour?" I said, "Well, an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm not, we don't really count time too much, Al. What do you think?" "Well, Al, it's been a little bit over 2 hours."
Yep. We made the most of it.
That's right.
And Al, I guarantee you we could be here another 2 hours easily. And if I thought that Dylan could keep up with us, I'd probably keep going for another 2 hours, because this has really been enjoyable for me. It's been a true honor, and thanks so much for taking the time to be with us tonight.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Well, that's it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate so much you being here with us on our YouTube channel, New Tracks Modeling. Hope you'll subscribe to it. Hope you'll enjoy the other roughly 750, if you can believe that, videos that we've recorded that are on our channel now. Hope you'll also go to our website, newtracksmodeling.com, and subscribe, because if you do, then you'll be able to join our shows Wednesday night live on YouTube. And the difference between, not on YouTube, on Zoom. And the difference joining us on Zoom rather than being on YouTube is that if you're on Zoom, you can actually talk. You can actually ask questions whenever you want to and participate. On YouTube, you can ask your questions on chat. And then as soon as we find out that you've asked a question, we'll try to get the guest to respond to you. But it's a little different on the Wednesday shows. So if you'd like to join us on those, please subscribe to our website, because if you do, then you'll get a email each week with the login links for the show. And it's the only way that you can join us live that way, because we've been hacked in the past and we don't publish the login links live anymore. And lastly, please keep in mind, we have a Patreon account. We do have expenses. We really want to make sure that we can start the scholarship program this year. It'll be the first year we've tried to do it. It's extremely important to us, I think, to try to help the young modelers. And that's one way that we can do it, and try to get more young people maybe involved in our hobby. So with all that said, thanks so much again for being here. The next show like this is going to be December the 1st with the guest is George Serra. George is heavily involved in the Brickyard Club. And I think you're really going to find that fascinating. If you've never heard of it, it's something to behold. And I think that you're really going to enjoy meeting George on December the 1st, 7 p.m., again on our YouTube channel, New Tracks Modeling. Thanks so much again. Best of modeling to you. Until next time.